Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Sorry that this is a little delayed. I normally post my deck profiles of winning lists on the Sunday preceding the tournament, but because it was last weekend, so not this weekend prior, but the weekend before, I had just forgotten because it was my deck that inevitably won. I put one in quotations if you remember what happened on Saturday's video, where I technically didn't win in a legal sense. Games 1, I technically cheated at the win against Gerard because I very rarely go up against blue hybrids since it phased out of the meta, but now that it's coming back, I need to be more aware of that kind of stuff. So I ignored one of the restrictions on one of my cards, and that was the card that ended up winning the game, even though it didn't win exactly in the correct manner. But it's perfectly fine because I have since that adjusted the list and played it already in another tournament, which you will see that video next week, Saturday. This will probably be going out tomorrow. I'm recording this on Monday, so it'll be going out on Tuesday. And I have corrected the list to adjust for the hybrid matchup so it can play correctly and legally. But obviously, with Murphy's Law, Gerard was not at that tournament, so it really didn't even need to be there. But the deck performed surprisingly well still, even with the adjustments. I won't spoil where I came in that video, as that will be out this coming Saturday. So for now, this is the adjusted list, well, corrected list is probably a better sense of the word, of my Magnamon X Armor Rush deck. This deck is amazing. It's one of my favorite generations of Digimon, being Adventure 2. I love the armor mechanic. I love the way Digimon integrates its in-story lore with its in-game mechanics, and this is one of the ones where I think they've done it so amazingly, and also kind of deadly, because it's basically made Advanced Rookie Rush. This is a new information, obviously, if you've been playing the game for a while, but for those who might be new to the game, when it was still in its early stages, Rookie Rush was a strategy where you would play level 3s for cheap and just swing with level 3s, not caring if they lose in security, because you're just getting that damage in because they're cheap to play. So you play like 2 cost level 3s and you would just keep playing and swinging, and have some stall cards on back burner and remove cards in case they put something oppressive on the board. This is a little different. It plays similarly, but instead you can keep your 3s for a little bit longer. So without further ado, let's get on into this deck profile. Like I said, this is an adjusted list, so there are card choices that weren't in the tournament. So first up here, we have our Digitama, which I have opted to use Xiaomon. I would love to make this a pure loyalty deck to my boy V, but unfortunately that's not possible, simply because the Demi Vmons really work only for the Imperial Dramon strategy well, and don't exactly facilitate an armor rush strategy. So instead, I have opted to go with Xiaomon because of its beautiful inherited effect, which is on all turns, if your Digimon's at level 4, gain 1000 DP. Now, Armor Rush strictly stays on level 4 aside from Magnamon X, so this is always live. So if you've got a Xiaomon in your ESS, this will always be active, meaning you can always get that extra 1k DP for basically doing nothing, just kind of existing. So it's always a good to have. Next up, let's go through that level 3 lineup, and as you would have guessed it, it is going to be mostly Vmons. So I played 2 of the jamming Vmon. I would ultimately like to play 4, and you should play 4. I played 2 mostly because these were 2 that one Kanan pulled and I just bought off of him, and this I pulled out of the anniversary pack. So there are 2. I only have the 2, but if you are playing this deck, I do highly recommend playing 4. In lieu of the 4, I am playing the 2 EX01 Vmons, promo included, nice, with the inheritable of Once per turn, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended during your main phase, gain 1 memory. This matters a bit in this deck because when Digivolving into Magnamon, not X, but normal Magnamon, you unsuspend on Digivolve, thereby proccing this ESS. So this does come in handy, and it does come up relatively often, and I'll tell you, you can play 4 of this and 4 of these. I'll tell you what you can cut for 4 of these. But optimally, you do want the jamming V, just because jamming is amazing. Because when swinging with your armored Digimon, if they lose, if you've got like security +1 due to an option card effect or anything of the sort, when you swing into security, if that armor dies, normally it's okay because you can purge and the level 3 can still swing for that last check, but then the level 3 has a chance to die. In the sense with jamming, you don't really need to worry about that. You can kind of swing mindlessly into security and not even be scared of dying. So definitely the jamming Vmon is the better pick, but EX01 is a really good option for the strategy. After that, we've got 4 structure deck Vmons. This is from the all 4 structure deck. The I believe it was ST, what was it, 11? Somewhere along those lines, either somewhere there. This is a really good Vmon. Your turn, when your opponent's level 6 or higher, when your opponent has a level 6 or higher, apologies, in play, you can warp Digivolve into all 4s from your hand for a memory cost of 4 instead of its original 3 Digivolution cost, and ignoring Digivolution requirements. Now, obviously, I don't play an all 4s package, as this is an armor Digimon deck, but the real reason I play this card is because of the Inheritable, which is when attacking, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, trigger draw 1. This does come up very often because you have a lot of cards that play themselves. You use a lot of option cards, so that kind of just reduces hand without recycling hand. Because obviously on Digivolve you will draw, so you're recycling there, but in the sense of option cards, you don't refresh the hand. So this is a great way to keep resources pumping, and because it's an inherent effect, it's always live because you're always going to be in an armored Digimon. Next up, we're playing 4 of the Structure Deck 9. Oh, right, I'm stupid, I can read, can't I? This is Structure Deck 8, right. So Structure Deck 9 Vmon is also really good in this deck because it's just generic as hell. So it's on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add a card with free in its traits among them to your hand, place the remaining at the bottom of your deck. The entirety of the O2 generation are all, actually not all of them, that's a lie. Majority of them though are free typing, and most importantly, all your armors are free typing. So this is basically a searcher for your entire deck, because also every Vmon is a free, so it can even fetch itself. So you never really dead hit with this unless you hit like all the option cards and literally no Digimon, but if you hit any Digimon at any point, this can fetch it. So this is a really great card for fetching out your options and tutoring out the cards you need. Maybe you're stuck and you need a blocker and you can fetch you an Magnamon, or you need an aggressive attacker and you can go find your Flame Dramons. So either way, this card is a must-have in the deck. I believe, I would dare say this is a staple for the strategy, much like the jamming Vmon, because there's really no reason not to be running it, as it does provide just so much benefits to the deck. It would really make no sense for you not to be running if you have access. Next, we have the BT8 following the Structure Deck 8 Vmon. This one is the one you can cut. You can cut 2 of these for 2 EXs and 2 of these for 2 jamming Vmons. Don't get me wrong, it's a great card, but it just doesn't do enough for the deck, especially with the list that I run. So on play, reveal top 4 cards of your deck, add a 2-color blue from among them to your hand, place the remaining at the bottom of your deck in any order. So because you're playing an armor deck, all your armors are dual color, so this fetches literally everything. This even fetches Magnamon X, which the other Vmon doesn't, because Magnamon X doesn't have free in its typing. But I still don't know how much I enjoy this, especially because it has no ESS. It feels kind of like weird to play and kind of sacky at best. I'll keep running it because I mostly have no access to other Vmons, but I will be replacing this with the upcoming Vmon, not the one in BT11, I believe, because it's a Vidramon searcher, but there is a new one that was revealed recently, that searches a more wider range of cards for this deck. So I feel like that would be a better VMon to tech in than this one. The reason this one is sort of good is because it also searches your dual color option cards and Tamers. So it's really good, but I've kind of cut down on those cards a bit since revising the deck. So I don't hit this as often as I normally did. So I kind of feel like it's not doing as much for me as I would like. Maybe I might cut it down to 3 and add another EXO1, but for now I'm keeping it at 4 for the strategy. That covers it for the level 3s. Let's get into the level 4s. And first up we have the boy. We have Flamedramon. Now Flamedramon is amazing. Like, this card is aggressive as all hell because the 5k DP means nothing because its on attacking effect gives it 3k DP for the turn. This includes if you purge. So for anyone playing this deck, just remember that if you die in security and you purge your Flamedramon, it says when attacking this Digimon gains 3k DP. Everything in the stack is considered this Digimon. So if you purge this, the VMon below it will retain that 3k DP along with any other stat effects you've given to it, such as security, attack +1 from option cards. So this is a really good aggressive card because it kind of lets you climb over most cards in your opponent's decks. Level 5s, level 4s, 3s, 2s, 1, everything. The only thing it doesn't climb over obviously is level 6s because it can't really make it that high unless you boost it with more cards. But the more cards you play, obviously the more memory you lose. So this is the least amount of memory possible for the most amount of aggression as possible. Next up, we're playing 4 copies of Lydramon. We're playing pure VMon loyalty here, no Wholesomons or anything of the sort. So Lydramon is really good, especially if your opponent's playing a lot of power level 3s that like on-play surge, on-play do other things, or are floodgates in a sense, not allowing you to reduce play cost or something of the sort, or gain memory via anything but Tamers. This kind of deals with everything because it's on Digivolve effect. It says suspend one of your opponent's level 4s or lowers. Those are normally the things causing you grief. So you suspend it, you swing with the Lydramon, and you clear that thing off the board so you can get your other effects going. I have once or twice swung this into another 5k body, Purge to protect, and then Armor Digivolved into a Magna, so it's also good for a play like that, but you mostly use it to get rid of pesky level 3s that are kind of doing too much for your opponent. For example, against Harrod, this is great for dealing with Bokumon. Digivolve this, tap the Boku, swing this, kill the Boku. So it has a lot of utility in the sense of clearing level 3s that are doing a little bit too much for what there are. So this is a really good addition, a good add to your deck. You could cut 2 for a wholesome, or even 1 at most, for at least for a Wholesomon, because it's got an on Digivolve pop. But the reason I'm playing mostly VMon stuff is because all of these Digivolve onto a VMon specifically for the reduced cost of 2. Now, this reduced cost is not reducing like other cards do, where they say reduce the Digivolution or the play cost. This is setting the play cost to 2 if the Digimon below it is VMon. So things like your opponent cannot reduce play cost or evolution cost really don't care when they've got this. These guys really don't care about those kind of effects. So it's good in that sense for a tribal deck or loyalty deck. And yeah, it's really good at clearing very annoying cards. Next up, we've got basically one of the namesakes of the deck, which is Magnamon. You do play 4 of this. This really is like something you cannot shirk on. Like, the other armors are debatable depending on the strategy you're going for, but if you're playing Magnamon, you should be running 4, especially if your level 3s are majority VMons. The reason is it Digivolves for VMon for a 3 instead of a yellow or blue for 4, and it's got that on Digivolve unsuspend, and it gets 2k for every armor in the drop. This is really good because it also has blocker. So not only does it set itself up for the block by digivolving and unsuspending, but it also gives itself more DP to deal with literally anything on your opponent's side of the board. If you've got at least 3 or 4 armors in the trash already, which you should have about turns 4 or 5, this thing can basically deal with every high level DP Digimon your opponent throws out. Obviously, unless it gets deleted, but then that's obviously it is what it is. It also obviously has the armor purge ability, so it's always a good card to have. Next up, the other main namesake of the deck, the Magnamon X Antibody, and the card I didn't read. So this card is really good. It's very oppressive and very hard for most decks to deal with. The only one exception being obviously Hybrid, because Blue Hybrid, because it strips sources, which is the only one you really got to be scared of. So Magnamon X's effects are opponent's turn. When your opponent's Digimon attacks, if this card has armor in its ESS with armor in its traits or X Antibody underneath it, this Digimon can redirect the attack to it. This is not once per turn. So if your opponent basically has all level 5s or lowers on the board, hasn't boosted anything, even if it has boosted, you really wouldn't care too much, this redirects all the attacks. Like, because it's not once per turn, this thing alone kind of stalls you for time to find other pieces, or even just get some more chip damage going with itself as well as your other armors. The secondary effect is also amazing. All turns when this Digimon would be deleted, you may place the top card of this Digimon on the top of your security stack face down to prevent the deletion. So this is amazing, especially against, I played against a green player at one point, who attempted to pierce. So they swung at me, I redirected, they were big enough to go over the Magna, so instead of deleting, I slapped it on the stack. They looked at me because I didn't go for the damage, and then I explained to them, piercing requires the Digimon be deleted. Because this prevents the deletion, this piercing doesn't end up going through. So this is really good for a lot of strategies. I believe even the Ragnar strategy does piercing with a specific Legend Arms underneath it, so this might come up for anyone who's playing this deck in the future in the current format. This is a really good card, very oppressive, and just all around really good, and it's kind of why I love this deck so much. Like, I already loved it just because it was Vmon and all its evolutions, but this just added a level of defense, aggression, and control that the deck, frankly, didn't need, but is very welcomed in the long run. So that's it for Digimon. Moving on to Tamers, I do have a different ratio than normal people. So I'm running 3 Davis and 2 Davis and Ken. Most people tell you to run 3 Davis and Ken and 2 Davis. The reason I've done it in this ratio mostly is because one of the edits to the deck I made is I removed Blue Memory Boost and placed in a 3rd Davis. The reason for this was mostly because if I have to choose between having a Blue Memory Boost and a Davis, I would always want Davis, because Davis searches for a blue and a green Digimon. So if you hit a Lydramon and any other blue Digimon, you can grab both. Or at worst, you're playing Blue Memory Boost, you're just grabbing one of the Digimon in your deck. So either way, this thing is always live, of course, unless you hit option cards. But yeah, that is obviously a different story. It's also a memory set, so having this as early as possible is really important for me, mostly because the more I can do on my turn, the earlier, the more aggression I can post out. Because if I have more memory to work with in the early games, I can rush faster. So I prioritize the Davis over anything else. The Davis and Ken is nice because you get a memory at the start of your main phase for a blue Digimon and a green Digimon. So 1 proc for each. If you have multiples, it's really good because you can get like 6+ memory per turn, or at the worst, you're getting 3. So it was great when I had it at 3, but because I've cut down on certain option cards, this really doesn't come up that often, and also not often enough that I really feel like I need to rely on it. I'm also considering editing another card in the deck which relies on this card, so this becomes even less mandatory for the deck. So slowly, as I'm iterating the deck, this card is becoming less and less mandatory, and it might be cut altogether at one point, or at the very least be cut down to 1. So I really need to decide soon how I want to play out this ratio. So far this is working and I'm happy with it. Some people might disagree with this ratio, and that's perfectly fine, but for me this works and I'm happy with it as is. That's it for the Tamers. After that we have the option cards. I'm playing 2 Fire Rocket, mostly because I don't really have the deck room for more, but obviously if I'm cutting down on things like Davis and Ken, then I will get obviously more space for this. This card is really good, because while you have a Digimon with armor, you basically ignore the color requirements, so it's just a 1-cost colorless option card that you can play whenever you feel like. and its effect is one of your Digimon with 2 or more colors gains security +1. That's all your Digimon. And the beauty of this effect is that even if you purge, because the effect applied before the purge, the effect lingers. Just because it is no longer a 2-color Digimon, the effect doesn't dissipate because it's already been given. So, in the sense, when attacking security, you will swing with your Digimon, it might lose, then you purge it, and the level 3 underneath can still swing one last time because of the lingering effect of Fire Rocket. I would like to bump this up to 3, maybe even 4. I'm still deciding on the ratios there, but this is looking pretty good, and I would like to exploit it just a little bit more for that early game aggression. Next up, we're playing 3 Hammer Spark because the deck list is so tight. We're only playing 3. This is one of the cards I'm considering cutting down to 2 because while Hammer Spark is great, my option cards in Digimon don't really need too much memory. It does help every now and then getting that extra memory if you want to choke out your opponent for a low play cost. But majority of the time, I'm seeing this more as like a, ooh, great, a security bomb with +2 memory, which is fun and all, but like, I feel like I could put more options to not have to rely on it being in security. Because while it is still good in hand, gaining me that 1 memory, like I said, everything in here is pretty cheap to play. So you don't actually need that extra 1 memory most of the time. Not all of the time. It's not always bad, but I'm finding more often than not, I'm seeing a Hammer Spark and being like, cool, this is an option I have. Sure, I might as well burn it and try and choke out my opponent. And I feel like that's not the right mentality. If you see a card and it feels mediocre at most times, I feel like it shouldn't be in the deck list, or it should at least be cut down in the deck list. So I might cut this down to 2, possibly, because I feel like that would be a decent enough ratio. Sometimes I'll see enhanced, sometimes I'll see in security. I feel like it's a decent ratio, and then with that, I can increase the Fire Rocket count by at least another 1. +1 if I cut down a Davis and Ken, there's my 4th Fire Rocket. Next up, we've got my clutch card, Megadeth. This is really the only reason I play Davis and Ken still, because it has the blue-green requirement. But I am slowly also... I'm in 2 minds with Megadeth. So it's really good because most of my games on Saturday, this thing clutched out so often. It was way too often the last card in my security, which is very funny. And I love it when that happens, but like, it happened I think at most twice on Saturday and then once or twice in testing, so it doesn't happen often enough that really should that be my metric for having it in the deck, especially when this slot could be used for something else. I'm thinking of putting in like Innocence Blizzard, like source stripping my opponent myself. Also stunning is really good this format, so like, I feel like this is good. But I feel like this was good, and it still is a good card, I just don't think it's the right card for this deck. I will be playing an updated Imperial Digimon list when the new set drops. I believe it's BT12, the new Imperial cards come out, which also deal with soul stripping. Fun. I might put it in there when I'm playing Paildramons again, and Dino Bees, and other cards that fulfill the 2-color requirement, but for this deck currently, it's just Davis and Ken and Lydramon, nothing else. So I feel like I don't hit this enough. You saw me probably very often play this card and then realize, oh wait, I can't play it, I don't have a green in play. So like, it feels very restricting. It's a really good card with that suspend and bounce, and it doesn't have a level restriction, so it bounces anything, which, don't get me wrong, is really good, but if you can't use it, then it's just a dead card in the hand. So I really want to maybe either cut down or remove it altogether. Next up, we've got obviously the correction of 2x antibodies now. So it's really there just because of the source stripping. I removed, I believe, an Ice Wall for this, because Ice Wall, again, I also felt was a very sacky card, being a one-of. Cool, it was a security bomb. This is also a security bomb. You get 1 memory and it comes to your hand. So this worked basically like a mini Ice Wall / Hammer Spark. So this is pretty good for the strat. And also it's got that when swinging you can digivolve into an X antibody Digimon. So I could technically swing with Magna and X digivolve into Magna X if I really wanted to, but I haven't really used that ability very much for its Digivolution cost. Yeah, and it does fully pay for you do have to fully pay the Digivolution cost, so it's not like you lose the costing and it's a cheap Digivolve. So it's a great card and all, but I'm really not just playing it so that I can account for the blue hybrid player apparently at our locals. And I was thinking this is kind of stupid because I really shouldn't just plan around one player, but then I remembered that Gerard is going to be playing blue flare, so he's still going to be doing stuns and strips and stuff like that, so this is still going to be relevant for a while, at least at my locals. If your locals really isn't seeing blue flare or blue hybrid in any sense, you can remove this completely 100%. This is really just here as a locals medical. It's nothing more, nothing less. Like I said in the video on Saturday, blue hybrid is literally the only matchup where this matters. Every other matchup, this really doesn't matter because you're always going to have an arm in your sources. So I feel like to put it in just for Gerard is giving way too much credence to the one player, but because Gerard plays pretty much every weekend, the chances of playing against him are high. Since we don't have a sideboard, I kind of have to main it just because of that, because I mean, you do prep for your locals, you prep for your tournaments, so this is me prepping, I guess, for locals. And to round everything off, we're playing 2 Awakening of the Golden Knight. This card is nuts and I love it so much. So this is the card that came out with Magna X, and it's the reason Magna X is super strong in the deck. So while you have a Digimon with Armor Form in its traits or in play, you can use this card without meeting requirements. Most of the O2 cards kind of have this restriction because, well, Armor kind of plays by its own rules, I guess. Then its main effects is you may Digivolve one of your Digimon with Armor Form in its traits into a Digimon card with Magnamon in its name to your hand. Now, because it says with Magnamon in its name, you can do Magna X or you can do stock standard Magnamon. It actually doesn't matter which one you pick. So this is really great because a lot of the times when you're playing Armor Rush, you kind of hope your armor needs to be purged so you can Magna. This makes it so you don't have to rely on purging. You can just, okay, swing with Flame Dramon. Cool, Flame Dramon didn't die. Cool, Golden Awakening of the Golden Knights. Digivolve into Magna, unsuspend, my blocker is live. GG. So this is a really good card and a kind of a must-have. Even if you're not playing Magna X, if you're just playing pure armor with just Magnamon, I would still recommend putting this in the deck because it's really good generically, and its security effect is wild as well. Its security effect is return one card with Magnamon its name from your trash to your hand and add this card to your hand. So this sets itself up. It makes all of your Digimon access to Magnamon, and it's just an all-around good card. And pretty much, actually, thinking about this live, I feel like this should be the name of the deck, Awakening of the Golden Knight, because I feel like this is a good name for the deck because it's basically what it is. When the Magnamon hits, the day is won. So, well, most of the time. So yeah, that kind of does it for the deck profile, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you would change anything in this list. Let me know if you're playing Armor Rush and you have a spicy deck tech that you wish to share with everyone. I'm always welcome to new ideas. I love this game so much because there's so many valid ways of playing that it really doesn't matter. Most deck lists are good deck lists. There are very few cards where I'm like, oh yeah, that's blatantly just bad for the deck. Most cards have a function, and most of the functions are really good. This is a very well-balanced game, and I'm very happy to be playing it and able to play it, especially in a country where Bandai doesn't support the card shops. So maybe one day when they recognize South Africa as a valid place to distribute their cards, we will get more cards. But for now, we get as much as we can, and we play as much as we can. And that's really great all around. So yeah, guys, that's it for the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.